In this lesson, we're going to learn how to write a linear equation in slope-intercept form given a graph. We will also be able to write a linear equation in slope-intercept form given a table. Then we'll be able to create a table, a graph, and equation given the slope and y-intercept. Let's refresh our memory on the parts that we need to know in order to write an equation in slope-intercept form. We need to know the slope, and we will use the slope formula. We will also need to know the y-intercept, where the graph crosses the y-axis. Then we'll take our values m and b and put it into slope-intercept form. Our first example is a graph. And remember, we're going to write it in slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. We can easily see on this graph where the line crosses the y-axis at 0, 8. So our y-intercept is a value of 8. To find the slope, we need to locate 2 points, 0, 8, and 2, 7 are 2 points on this line. We can use any 2 points that we have, and then we're going to identify the change of the y compared to the change of the x. So from 0, 8 to 2, 7, we are going down 1 unit, and we're going to the right 2 units. So our slope is -1 over 2. And then we can put this together, and we have -1/2, y equals -1/2 times x plus 8. Now they want us to check 0.65 just to verify that our equation is correct. So we're going to replace x with 6 and y with 5. So we have 5 equals -1/2 times 6 plus 8. We have 5 equals -1/2 times 6 is -3 plus 8, and we do get 5 equals 5. So our equation is correct. Our next example is a function table. Again, we're going to write it in slope-intercept form. We need to find the slope and the y-intercept. So let's just pick any 2 points from the table to find our slope. And let's remember, our slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I'm going to choose the first 2 ordered pairs of my table. So I have -6, 11, and -4, 10. So we have x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, and y sub 2. When we're going to put those in the formula, we have 10 minus 11 compared to -4 minus -6. 10 minus 11 is a -1, -4 plus 6 is 2, so our slope is -1/2. The y-intercept is when x is 0. So look in your table, and we can see that when x is 0, y is 8, and that is our slope. That is our y-intercept. Now we can put this together, and we get our equation, y equals -1/2 x plus 8. Okay, let's check point -6, 11, just to make sure our equation is true. So y is 11, x is -6, and let's do the math. -1/2 times -6 is a +3 plus 8, and we do get 11 equals 11, a true statement. Our equation is correct. Example 3. Again, we're given a table, and we're going to put it in slope-intercept form. And let's find the slope. Again, our slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I'm going to pick my first 2 ordered pairs. You can pick any 2 ordered pairs you want. And plugging that into our formula, we have -9 minus -11, and we have -12 minus -15. And our rise is 2, and our run is 3. So our slope is 2 over 3. Now, notice this time in our table, we have not been given where x is 0. So we have to use point slope. So I'm going to use any point to plug in for x1 and y1, and then we'll plug in our 2 over 3 for our slope. So I'm just going to pick this first ordered pair here. So we're going to have y minus my y1 is equal to my slope of 2 over 3. And then we have x minus my x1. And now this is really y plus 11. And this is really x plus 15. And we're going to distribute the 2/3. So 2/3 times x is simply 2/3 times x. And then 2/3 times 15, I like to say 3 divides into 15 5 times, and 5 times 2 is 10. If you need to see that right now, it's 2/3 times 15. And then we have 30 over 3, which is 10. Or you could see that 3 divides into 15, 5, and 2 times 5 is 10. Now let's get the y by itself. We have y equals 2 over 3 times x minus 1. So our y-intercept is -1, and all together. And now let's check point -6, -5, and we're going to plug this in. -5 for y, -6 for x, and again, 3 divides nicely into -6. It goes -2. -2 times 2 is -4, minus 1, and we get a true statement. Let's look at our last example. This time, we've been given the slope and the y-intercept up front. We can easily write our equation. And now we can graph this. We can graph this knowing that we start at 0, 3 and use our slope of -2 over 1. So we can go down 2 and right 1 and down 2 and right 1. But since we already have to create a table of values to complete this table, let's just go ahead and plug in. So I'm going to say y equals -2 is my slope. I'm going to plug in -2 for x, and I get y equals 4 plus 3, so my y is 7. So when x is -2, y is 7. So over here on my graph, -2, 7 is a point. Now let's plug in -1. We get y equals, that is 2 plus 3, and y is 5. So we can plug in, so we can graph -1, 5, and you can see that our slope is down to right 1, down to right 1. We already know our y-intercept is 0, 3, but let's just plug it in. And we get y equals -2 times 0 is 0, and so we get y is 3. Okay, now let's plug in +1, and we get y equals -2 plus 3. So when x is 1, y is also 1. So we have 1, 1. And our last ordered pair that we're going to create is when x is 2. And when x is 2, y is -1. And we can plot that point to -1. And we can see here is our graph. Now, they want us to check for -5. So let's check this point. So we have -5 for y. -2 is our slope, 4 is x, and 3 is our y-intercept. And we see we get another true statement. Now you guys try these problems.